Jack had always been known in his small Ohio town as a humble, hard-working mechanic. His garage, tucked between two aging buildings, was small but organized, filled with tools, spare parts, and the smell of grease. Despite his modest life, Jack had a reputation for fixing anything mechanical, whether it was a car, an old bike, or even a child's broken wheelchair. He believed in helping people, not for recognition or money, but because he genuinely wanted to make life easier for others. Every morning, he arrived at the garage before sunrise, ready to tackle any challenge that came his way. One rainy afternoon, the bell above the garage door jingled unexpectedly. A sleek, black luxury car pulled up outside, its polished surface gleaming even in the overcast weather. Out stepped a tall, elegantly dressed woman, her expression a mix of anxiety and hope. She carried a small, fragile-looking wheelchair, and behind her was a young girl with soft, brown hair and bright, curious eyes. Jack immediately recognized that this was no ordinary customer. The air around them carried tension, worry, and a hint of desperation. The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Hamilton, a billionaire who had spent years seeking medical solutions for her daughter, Emily. Emily, just 10 years old, had been wheelchair-bound since birth due to a rare medical condition. Despite trying every specialist and expensive therapy, nothing had ever given her a chance to walk. Mrs. Hamilton had heard about Jack's reputation through local news and online forums, and although she was skeptical about a small-town mechanic, she had no other hope left. With a deep breath, she asked Jack if he could help her daughter. Jack crouched down to meet Emily's gaze, smiling warmly. "I'll do my best," he said simply, his voice calm and reassuring. Emily stared at him, a mix of curiosity and caution in her eyes. Jack examined her wheelchair carefully, running his hands along the worn metal and cracked seat. He noticed that some parts were outdated and inefficient, preventing Emily from moving freely. While the wheelchair wasn't broken, beyond repair, it certainly wasn't optimized for someone her size and needs. Jack already had ideas forming in his mind, plans that could potentially allow Emily to stand and take steps, something no one else had tried. Mrs. Hamilton watched Jack nervously, fidgeting with her designer handbag. "How much would it cost?" she asked. Jack shook his head immediately. "Money isn't the reason I do this," he said. "If Emily can take steps again, that's enough reward for me." Mrs. Hamilton looked at him incredulously. She had spent millions on treatments and therapists, and here was a young mechanic offering to help for free. Something about Jack's sincerity made her feel a cautious sense of relief. She nodded slowly and left the decision entirely in his hands, trusting that he could work a miracle. Jack spent hours examining the wheelchair, disassembling worn parts and taking measurements. He jotted down notes, sketched designs, and even searched online for materials that could help him build something innovative. Emily sat beside him, her legs dangling slightly, watching every movement. "Will I really be able to walk?" she asked timidly. Jack smiled and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll try, Emily. I promise I'll do everything I can to help you." Her face lit up with a small, hopeful smile, and Jack felt a surge of determination. He knew the challenge ahead would be immense, but he also knew the reward could change a young girl's life forever. Over the next few days, Jack's garage became a whirlwind of activity. Metal parts, screws, wheels, and tools were scattered across the floor as he worked tirelessly. He modified the wheelchair's frame, added supportive braces, and designed a mechanism to assist Emily in standing. Jack also created a simple handle system to help her balance while learning to take steps. Each evening, when the rain subsided, Mrs. Hamilton would peek into the garage to see his progress, marveling at how carefully he worked. Emily began to get familiar with the sounds and motions of the garage, feeling an unexpected excitement each time she visited. Jack's work was painstaking and precise. He tested each adjustment repeatedly, ensuring safety and comfort above all else. He often explained his process to Emily in simple terms, making her feel included and important. She began to ask questions, fascinated by how machines worked and how her own mobility could be improved. Jack encouraged her curiosity, teaching her small things about balance, gears, and support systems. Slowly, a bond developed between the mechanic and the little girl, built on trust, patience, and a shared dream of seeing Emily walk one day. Despite the long hours, Jack never complained. He skipped meals and rested only briefly before returning to work. The thought of Emily taking her first steps motivated him like nothing else ever had. Mrs. Hamilton, initially skeptical, began to realize that Jack wasn't just talented, he was genuinely compassionate. She observed from a distance as he meticulously adjusted the wheelchair's mechanisms, making sure every part was smooth and functional. The more she watched, the more hope she felt growing. Inside her, for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine Emily walking, even if just for a few steps. By the fifth day, the wheelchair was almost complete. Jack carefully assembled the final components, double-checking every detail. Emily's eyes widened as she saw the finished wheelchair, sleek and sturdy, yet designed with an innovative mechanism to assist her. "Will it really work?" she asked nervously. Jack knelt beside her and smiled. "Let's find out," he said. He helped her sit safely, adjusting straps and braces. Emily took a deep breath, gripping the handles, and felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The room was silent, except for the soft patter of rain against the garage roof. At that moment, Mrs. Hamilton stood behind them, holding her breath. Jack gently guided Emily forward, supporting her as she lifted her legs. At first, Emily wobbled slightly, unsure of her strength, but slowly she began to balance herself, testing the mechanism Jack had built. Her eyes sparkled with surprise, and she let out a small laugh. Jack encouraged her, cheering softly. "You're doing it, Emily! Keep going!" The sight of her determination filled the garage with an energy that was almost magical. In that small Ohio garage, hope was no longer just a dream. It was becoming a reality. The next morning, Emily returned to Jack's garage with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She couldn't stop thinking about what had happened the day before. The wheelchair had given her a glimmer of hope, but today would be the real test. Jack greeted her warmly, patting her hand. "Are you ready to try again?" he asked gently. Emily nodded, gripping the handles tightly. Mrs. Hamilton watched silently from the doorway, her heart racing. She had seen the progress, but she knew the real moment, the moment Emily might take her first independent steps, was approaching. The air felt charged with anticipation. Jack carefully helped Emily into the wheelchair, adjusting the straps and braces one last time. "Remember, don't be afraid," he said. "I'm right here if you need me." Emily's eyes met his, full of trust and determination. She took a deep breath and, with Jack's support, pushed herself slightly forward. Her legs trembled, but the mechanism in the wheelchair helped her balance. Slowly, she began to rise, feeling weight on her legs for the very first time. Jack encouraged her gently, praising each small movement. Emily's confidence grew with every wobble and careful step, and her laughter began to fill the room. Mrs. Hamilton's eyes filled with tears as she watched Emily. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her daughter, who had been confined to a wheelchair for 10 years, was standing with support and trying to walk. Each step was hesitant yet filled with determination. Jack guided Emily carefully, holding her hands and offering words of encouragement. "You're stronger than you think," he whispered. Emily's face lit up with a mix of fear and joy as she balanced herself, stepping forward with surprising stability. For Mrs. Hamilton, the years of worry and helplessness were melting away, replaced by awe and gratitude for this kind-hearted mechanic. Emily continued to practice, each step growing bolder than the last. Jack adjusted the wheelchair slightly as needed, making sure the balance and support were perfect. The small garage felt alive with energy and hope. Mrs. Hamilton couldn't resist, stepping forward, her voice quivering. "Emily, you're doing it! You're walking!" Emily's eyes widened, and she turned toward her mother, beaming. The young girl took a few more steps, her legs trembling but steady. Jack smiled quietly, a sense of pride filling him. For the first time, Emily's potential felt limitless, and the impossible seemed within reach. As Emily gained confidence, she began taking steps without needing to hold onto the wheelchair. Jack stayed close, ready to catch her if she stumbled, but Emily was finding her own rhythm. Her laughter echoed through the garage, and Mrs. Hamilton couldn't hold back her tears. She ran to her daughter, catching her in a tight embrace. "You did it, Emily, you're walking!" Emily hugged her mother, feeling an overwhelming sense of joy and freedom. Jack watched silently, his heart swelling with pride. The long hours, the careful adjustments, and the countless sketches and measurements had all led to this miraculous moment. Mrs. Hamilton was still shaking with emotion as she pulled back slightly, her hands on Emily's shoulders. "Jack," she said softly, her voice choked with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. You've given my daughter a chance I never thought possible." Jack smiled humbly. "I didn't do it for thanks or money. Seeing Emily walk is reward enough," he said. Mrs. Hamilton's tears flowed freely as she looked at Jack with admiration. "You're a miracle worker," she whispered. Emily's excitement was contagious, and the room was filled with a sense of pure happiness, something everyone had longed for but never expected to witness. Emily's steps grew steadier with every passing moment. She moved around the garage giggling as she explored the space she had only ever viewed from a wheelchair. Jack adjusted the final minor tweaks on the mechanism, ensuring comfort and safety. "You're amazing." "Emily," he said softly, smiling. Mrs. Hamilton couldn't take her eyes off her daughter, her heart swelling with joy. She had spent a fortune on treatments, therapies, and specialists, yet none had come close to this moment. A small-town mechanic had accomplished what millions of dollars and medical knowledge couldn't. In the span of a few days, Emily's life had changed forever. After several practice runs, Emily turned to Jack with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jack knelt to meet her gaze. "No need to thank me. You did all the hard work," he said, warmly. Mrs. Hamilton stepped closer, placing a hand on Jack's shoulder. "You've given her a future," she said softly. Emily ran into her mother's arms again, her laughter and joy contagious. Jack's heart felt full. For him, the real miracle wasn't the money or recognition, it was the look in Emily's eyes, the freedom in her steps, and the bond they had formed through patience, trust, and belief. As the day came to a close, Emily was able to walk short distances entirely, independently. Jack, tired but elated, watched her confidently move around. The garage. Mrs. Hamilton hugged him again, still crying. "You've changed our lives," she whispered. Emily waved goodbye to Jack, promising to practice every day. Jack smiled, feeling the satisfaction of a job well done. He realized that true fulfillment came not from money or fame, but from helping others achieve what once seemed impossible. In that small Ohio garage, a miracle had unfolded, and hope had returned to a young girl's life in a way no one had ever imagined. That evening, Mrs. Hamilton insisted on staying longer at the garage, unable to leave. Without expressing her gratitude, she had watched her daughter, Emily, take her first independent steps, something she had dreamed about for 10 long years. Jack sat quietly, wiping sweat from his brow, unaware of the full impact of his work. Mrs. Hamilton handed him an envelope, and he hesitated, unsure whether to accept it. "It's nothing," he said humbly. "I did this for Emily, not for money." But Mrs. Hamilton shook her head, her eyes filled with determination and emotion. "Please, just open it," she urged gently. Jack opened the envelope cautiously, and his eyes widened in disbelief. Inside was a check, a generous sum far beyond anything he had ever imagined, accompanied by a letter offering him a unique opportunity. Mrs. Hamilton explained that she wanted Jack to run a specialized workshop for children with disabilities across the country. His skills could now help countless other kids, like Emily. Jack was speechless, his humble nature making it hard to process such a grand gesture. For him, this was about more than money. It was about changing lives, just as he had done for Emily. Emily ran to Jack, wrapping her small arms around him tightly. "Thank you, Jack. You're my hero," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with pure joy. Jack chuckled softly, his heart swelling with pride. Mrs. Hamilton stood nearby, wiping tears from her cheeks, unable to believe how one man's compassion had transformed their lives. The garage, which had once been just a quiet place of work, now felt like a sanctuary of hope and miracles. Jack realized that the simple act of helping someone could ripple out in ways he had never imagined, touching lives far beyond his small Ohio town. Over the next few days, Mrs. Hamilton made arrangements to formalize the offer for Jack. She wanted him to have the resources, tools, and staff necessary to help more children who had been confined by physical limitations. Jack initially hesitated, unsure if he was ready to step into such a high-profile role. He had spent his life in his small garage, helping people quietly and without recognition. But seeing Emily walk, laughing and exploring the world with newfound freedom gave him the courage to accept. He realized that this was the chance to create an even greater impact. Jack's workshop quickly became a reality. Children from across the state came to meet him, and he applied the same care, patience, and ingenuity that he had used with Emily. He designed custom mobility aids, innovative braces, and supportive mechanisms tailored to each child's needs. Emily often visited, her laughter and joy, inspiring both Jack and the other children. Mrs. Hamilton oversaw the project, ensuring that the workshop had everything it needed. What had started as a small act of kindness in a humble garage had grown into a movement capable of transforming countless lives, giving hope to children and parents who had long felt helpless. Despite the increasing responsibilities, Jack remained grounded and humble. He spent hours teaching children how to use their new devices, encouraging them to push their limits safely. Each small success reminded him of Emily's first steps. Mrs. Hamilton often watched, overwhelmed with gratitude, knowing that without Jack, none of this would have been possible. Emily, now walking confidently, became the symbol of hope for every child who arrived at the workshop. The bond between Jack, Emily, and her mother grew stronger, built on trust, compassion, and shared experiences that would forever link their lives. One day, after a long session with the children, Jack sat quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened. He realized that true success wasn't measured in money or recognition, but in the joy and independence he could give to others. Emily approached him, holding a small handmade card. "Thank you, Jack," she said simply, her innocent words carrying profound meaning. Jack smiled, feeling tears prick his eyes. Mrs. Hamilton joined them, holding Emily's hand. Together, the three of them shared a quiet moment, knowing that this day had not only changed Emily's life, but had created a legacy of hope for countless others. As the sun set over the Ohio town, the workshop glowed warmly, filled with laughter, excitement, and determination. Jack looked around, proud of what had begun in his small garage and had now blossomed into something extraordinary. Children ran around, testing their new mobility aids, encouraged by Jack's guidance and Emily's inspiring example. Mrs. Hamilton stood nearby, silently thanking fate for bringing Jack into their lives. Emily walked steadily, no longer confined by her wheelchair, embodying the miracle that had been made possible through patience, skill, and genuine compassion. In that moment, everyone understood that small acts of kindness could create extraordinary outcomes. Jack, once a quiet mechanic, had now become a symbol of hope. His humble nature never wavered, even as the workshop flourished and media attention began to grow. He remained focused on the children, ensuring that every design was safe, effective, and tailored to their needs. Emily continued to improve daily, inspiring other children to believe in themselves. Mrs. Hamilton, overwhelmed with pride and emotion, realized that the decision to trust Jack had been the most important choice of her life. Together, they had transformed not just Emily's life, but the lives of countless children and families who would benefit from Jack's skill and compassion. The journey had been long and filled with uncertainty, but the results were undeniable. Emily's laughter echoed through the workshop, a constant reminder of what dedication, innovation, and kindness could achieve. Jack had turned a simple garage project into a nationwide initiative, helping children achieve independence they had only dreamed of. Mrs. Hamilton often reflected on that first day she had brought Emily to the garage, marveling at how one man's talent and heart had created a ripple effect of miracles. And as Emily continued to walk, play, and thrive, everyone knew their lives had been changed forever.